Okay. So welcome to this week's workshop. We have just done a round of introduction, right? So if you're watching this online, watching the recording online, please come next week. Please join us next week, right? Want to meet new people and start forming groups, so you can know more people for the and prepare for the future activities, right? Okay, so the outline is roughly the same, except that last week we didn't have time to cover the groups. So we should do a little bit of shifting, and we will cover groups in this week. Now move camera to next week, right? So I will cover the camera together with tile map, which is the map of your game, and your camera will help a lot in if your game is very big, right? So I will cover them together. Okay, right. So now I'll first quickly finish the groups. So okay, so groups is just a convenient tool for you to arrange the nodes, right? You have different nodes that you want to group together, right? You can use them to use a group to check if a node is within one group, right? To do some checking, right? So how do we set the group? We select a node, and in the inspector tab, we can just a group doc. Let's open Godot, right? So maybe the current group, the only group we have is skeleton and orc, right? They're both in the enemy group. So let's go to the skeleton scene. And okay, so in the inspector, in the inspector, there's choose the node tab, and then there's a groups, right? So if we manage groups, right? Currently we have no groups, so maybe we can create a groups called enemy, right? And we add the group. Right, so you have a list of nodes under the skeleton parent. So you can just choose the skeleton node itself and add it into the enemy group.
Okay, wait, how to get the enemy?
Yeah, click on the, choose the scene, right? And then in the inspector, there's a node tab. It's the same tab with the signals, and then there's a groups.
Okay, so you add enemy and then like
Yeah.
So just add skeleton to the enemy group.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so other than the skeleton, we also want to add the orc as an enemy group, right? So it's the same. We go to the orc scene, and in the groups, we manage groups, right? Okay, so we do the same, and we add the orc as into the enemy group.
How does the enemy group appear automatically?
No, I input I keyed in enemy actually. Yeah. So this is actually, you can think of it just as a tag that you associate with the node, right? And then later you can like filter by this tag. Yeah, you can just think of it like this. Okay, so we can add the orc into the. Okay, well, I never add the. Okay, so we can add the orc node into the enemy group. Right. So make sure you check that in the groups tab. The orc has an enemy group, and the skeleton also has an enemy group, right? So how can we make use of these groups? Okay, so maybe we can go to the arrow scene, right? Remember that previously we kill an enemy based on the collision layer value, right? So now we have a new tool to check if he's the enemy or not, right? Okay, so we go back, right? So we can use this syntax. If you can use a get groups function of any node, right? So this will return a list of all the groups of all the names of the groups that this node is in, right? So this let me just, if enemy, right, the string enemy is in body dot get groups, right? So body dot get groups will return you a list of the groups, right? A list of the strings. And then this checks if this string, enemy string, is inside this list of strings, right? You can use this to check if the node is if the body is an enemy or not. Right. Okay, let's try.
Wait.
So, the class.
Okay, can you on the second time out?
Okay, right. So this is just to check the groups. And
Oh, wait.
which one?
Wait, what went through the org for me?
It doesn't work for you?
The arrow went through the org, it went right through the org for me, like just working to the complete through.
Uh-huh.
But the arrow passed right through. Without
The
you can do it at a Sonic clearly past the org. How do I fix that? Arrow just has
it does it work before you change before you add the groups?
Yes. Okay. I need to stop the I think the move up, I think the update my. Okay. This is about I'm not more info of it. Then it doesn't work. Then you check it all. Since it's not in the book. So I find that it's did I use something wrong? Did you click on this ad? Oh, wait, what are you supposed to add? Yeah, you need to click on this ad.
Right. So the question just now was because when you add a group, right, you need to okay. How about I demonstrate on the platform? Yep. So let's say I create a platform group. Right. You don't have to do this. I'm just demoing, right? So after click on this platform, you need to click on this add button. Make sure it's inside this nodes in group, right? And then you click OK. Yeah. Right. So and you can also verify by checking the list of groups that your current node has. Right. So this is a list of groups that your current node has. Make sure the new group you added is here. You right click and add child node and search on collision shape node, collision shape 2D. Yeah. Okay. Don't you have this code? It's
no, I didn't update. It's not updated.
Okay. Okay, let's move on first. Yeah. So you can also, like, other than use the groups to check, right? Like as if the group is a tag, you can also filter all nodes by the group. So remember that get tree will give us the entire tree object, and then you can call this a get nodes in group function, right? So it will give you a list of all the nodes in the tree that fall under this group enemy. So let's say you have a power up that kills all enemies. This is how we do. So for all the objects in the enemy group, you call object.qfree, right? An equivalent function call is this. So you get tree and then there's a function call group, right? So it takes in two arguments. The first one is enemy, and second one is the name of the function you want to call on the enemy nodes, right? So these two are equivalent, right? So this will apply the Q-free function of all the nodes in enemy group, right? This one, I don't think I need to demo, right? Okay, yeah. I just you can refer here if you need in the future, right? Okay, so that's all I want to talk about the groups, right? And let's go into this week's topic. So yeah, at the end of today's workshop, we'll achieve something like this. Right, so it's all the art stuff we add to our game, right? Right. If I can help him out, yeah. I think the newest code, the GitHub code should have, yeah. Okay, so maybe a change for this week, right, is that we have both hands-ons and challenges, right? So later you can see something like this, right? So we have both hands-on and maybe a challenge that's slightly harder than the hands-on, right? So if you finish it already, you can start on the challenge, right? So I'll help those help those who cannot finish the hands-on, right? So yeah. So and in the meantime, you can start doing the challenge if you have finished the hands-on. And if you don't have time, you can try the challenge at home. Yeah. Okay, so that's this week's format. Yeah. Okay, so first we will talk about the assets in our games. So these are the sources of assets that we have access to. And first one is artists in your team, if you are lucky enough and they exist, right? For most of the teams, they don't have artists, so you have to come up with the assets by yourself. And second option is free online assets, right? And if you can't find a free online asset that suits your need, use I don't know, use Windows Paint or something, right? Yeah. Sometimes we have to like draw a health bar, draw an arrow, use your softwares. So we will focus on the free online assets, right? So these are just some links that I usually go to, right? So you can refer to them later. But today we'll focus on this itch.io. So let's go to itch.io. Right. So I hope everyone has created an itch account, right? Anyone hasn't? So okay, so itch.io is basically just like Steam, like you can publish your game on itch.io, right? And it also has lots of assets that you can use. They upload their assets, you can buy the assets, and some of them are free as well, right? It's basically a game making community with lots of functions. So if we hover on the browse and then go to assets, right? So now you can see all the assets that's available for you, right? And some of them are free, some of them cost money, right? So maybe we can start with the free ones first, right? Okay, so all the assets in our current game I got from a free asset pack. Let me try to. Okay, maybe it's not here. So can go to the Discord. It's the first link that I sent. It's a characters and background. Right. So this is one of the assets that I picked. And we can look for the download links in this page. So right. So this is this you can download here. This is the tiles and the background, right? You can download here. And also there is let me see the characters, right? Here is a character. You see the knight here, right? This one is a click here to go to the character asset. It is also free, right? Find the download link and then download. Right. Some of the assets will say you can name your own price. I just name $0. Yeah. There's also a link. Yeah, just can click on the link to just go to the downloads without paying. Sorry.
The
You can go to the computer crawler is in is in this tiles page, right? And then there's a right. Yeah, so in the link I sent, there is a clicking here. Oh, right. I'm sorry. Right. So in this page, there is a
character corresponds to the characters.
really?
At least that.
Okay, never mind. But yeah, never mind. But anyways, download this too, right? Yeah. This one is the tiles, right? And then in the tiles page, there's another hyperlink. Just click here, right? So this will go to the character page. Just make sure to download both, right? And unzip them. Actually, I have unzipped them before. Right. So unzip them to be one is called pixel crawler, the other one is called tiles. Right. Okay, so now if we go to the pixel crawler, heroes, knight, idol. Right. We can see idol sheet of PNG. Right. This one, okay, so the first asset I send you is just a crop. I just crop this image, get the first one. But actually it is a sprite sheet. The sprite sheet is just a collection of the same sprite, but in different positions, right? So how to use this sprite sheet? Okay, we can actually use it for player animation, right? So there is a node in Godot called animated sprite 2D, and you can specify the frames of the sprite, and it will animate based on the frames, right? So, okay, let's go to Godot. In the player, we want to animate the player sprite, right? So maybe we can remove the sprite 2D first. And then we can add a child node called animated sprite 2D. Right? And we should give it the appearance. Right? So in the inspector, in the animation, there is a sprite frames. Right? So we can add a new sprite frames. Click on it, then we can see a tab here for you to manage the sprite frames. Right. Okay, so to import a sprite frame, normally we just click on this button with 9 dots, add frames from sprite sheet. Then, okay, first we need to import the idle sheet into our game by dragging it into the file system, right? And yeah, can. Okay, so choose the sprite sheet and choose the idle sheet that we have just imported. And we see this, right? You can, you need to import the sprite sheet first. Import the idle sheet. You can just drag it into the file system and release it here. Yes. Feel free to rename it. Can maybe we can rename it to night_idle.png, right? And then add the sprite sheet into your sprite frames, right? And you'll see this. Okay, it's a bit small, so we can long hold control and then scroll up to enlarge it. Okay, so you see a bunch of numbers here, right? So the horizontal and vertical means how many splits you have horizontally and vertically, right? So let's say you can see it's a 4x4 table now. And if I change horizontal to 2 and press enter, there'll only be 2 horizontal splits, right? So let's just do some paper cutting. We need to have 4 horizontal splits and only 1 vertical split. So it will nicely cut the sprite sheet into 4 different sprite frames. Right. Now it says no frames selected. So we need to select the 4 frames. Notice the order that you choose the frames, and then you add the 4 frames. So it will add the 4 frames into your animated sprite. Okay, so now here we have a bunch of options also, right? Okay. This one is important. This one is autoplay on low, right? So if you choose this one, then this animation will be the default one that it plays when the game starts, right? It's also helpful if you give a new name to the animation, maybe call it idle. Right? You can just change the name here. Right? This option means the animation loops back after it plays 1 round, and this is just the frame per second of the animation. So if it's 4 frames, then it takes 0.8 seconds to finish 1 loop. Right. These are just a navigation. Yeah, that's pretty much all you need. Okay, so if we start the game now, then your player has been animated. All right. Okay. Oh. Okay, so now when you try to move it, right? Wait, you mean it's not animated? Have you chosen the autoplay on low? You click on the spot thing like this. You click on this tab, this one. Make sure it plays when the game starts. Right. So now we have a problem, which is this is null, right? So that's because we have changed the name of the sprite into animated sprite 2D. So we just need to change this name, right? Or it's better if you do the proper way. You just define define a variable called sprite. Then you access the sprite variable when the game is ready. Right? So the sprite equals this. And then replace all the null with your sprite variable. Okay, so that will solve the issue. I don't see which one? Anyways, you just have to replace the previous name, which is sprite 2D, with a new name, animated sprite 2D. That's it. Yeah. Okay, in the meantime, we can try to add another animation, which is a running animation. Okay. Have you enabled the autoplay on low? If you go to sprites frames, make sure this one is chosen. Yeah. Okay, so let's create a new animation. Let's call it running. Right. So we will add a running animation to the character when it's moving. So let's go to the run folder, and there's another spreadsheet here. Okay, we can import the sprite sheet into our file system. It should be called runsheet.png, and we can also rename it to be night_run. Right. So similarly, we can add the frames from this sprite sheet night_run.png. Right. And we can, so there should be 6 horizontal splits, only 1 vertical split. Right. And let's select all of them and see how it works. But now you notice that you guys see a problem here. See the sprite and the collision shape, right? They no longer overlap because there is something wrong with the sprite sheet, that this one is slightly below the idle position, right? So how do we fix that? We can use the offset when you cut the sprite sheet, right? So now let's just remove all the sprite frames. You can just choose here and then delete the frames, right? And then we can import again from the running sprite sheet. There should be 6 vertical, oh no, 1 vertical, 6 horizontal. And you see here is some other options here, right? You have the size, like separation and offset. So the thing we want to use here is the offset, the vertical offset. So if we just apply the vertical offset, then it's going to shift the spreadsheet down, right? I mean, shift it up or down. Okay, I think it shifts down, shifts the grid cells down, right, to match the frames. Right, so let's select all the frames and check that it overlaps. Okay. Okay, right. And yeah, now we have the running animation, but we need to make sure that it plays, right? The animation is being played when the player is actually running, right? That one we need to configure in the script. Let's go to the player script. Right. Okay, this one I updated the script a bit, so you may not have the direction. I just realized, right? So maybe if your code doesn't have the direction, right, you can you can see whether it is running by checking the speed variable. If the speed is velocity.x is not 0, then it is running, right? But here I have this direction variable, and when the direction is not 0, right, means it is running. So I need to set the animation to be running, right? How do we do that? We first need to access this node. We already have the sprite, right? Then, okay. So let's go to the direction. Then we call this function sprite dot set animation, right? So you can get animation to access the current animation of the sprite, or you can set the animation to be a different animation. So here we just sprite dot set underscore animation to be the name of the new animation which is running. I define sprite before the ready function as a variable sprite, right? And then in the ready function, I set it to be the node animated sprite 2D. You can drag it here. Yeah. So now with the sprite variable, you can just call the set animation functions. Okay. Right. So this is if the counter is actually running, right? But if it's not running, we should set it back to idle. So else sprite dot set animation. idle. All right, let's try. Okay, so now when you are pressing the left right button, it should be running. When you're not pressing, it should be not running. Okay.
Okay, one can't move because I didn't update the player.
The sprite 2D, is it? The name of the sprite 2D. This code is quite complicated. This one is for the challenge. You can use if input is action pressed UI left, then you set the velocity.x to be a negative value. Right.
I think connect the constant variables. Remember that sprite is now a variable that ready gets set to
Yes,
animated sprite 2D.
Yeah, it's the animated sprite 2D node. Right.
Also my first one. Yeah, never used all of them. I was always interested, never used it. I even own a couple of games running on that engine.
For Godot.
I know for a fact Rotato runs on Godot.
Yeah. Actually, most of the commercial games are in Unity.
I think the mix of Unity and Unreal.
Right.
Although Unreal is mostly Epic Games.
Yeah. You can refer to my GitHub page to update the code, actually. Anyway, so we need to move on the workshop. Okay, actually, the next one is hands-on, right? It's just to practice the entire flow again. So, right. So, yeah, you guys can try to add an idle animation for the orc, right? So, the sprite sheet should be in the enemy, orc crew, and this one, orc rogue, right? Then it's a spreadsheet for the orc. Okay, so yeah, just try to practice. Okay, so any question can ask. The challenge, yeah, can read yourself.
This one will be big, right? Like when you put an arrow, you're going to. It's yeah, that's a.
Arrow is it? The playwright. Okay, how many of you have finished adding the idle animation for orc? Yeah. And okay. How many people on the jumping? The player jumps into somehow while the players in the air just just while the players to one specific sprite. Yes, that's the idea. How about this stop? I know I have to add a function here, but I don't know how do I stop the animation? How do I have it go back to its regular behavior after it changes the sound again? That's a challenge. You need to find the breath. I have to figure out the activities and someone will. Anything that then the fact that when the then is your platform dot percentage. But your platform doesn't have a percentage function. That's why it's it's a very well. It's good. Then your rate is on the thing. Okay, so we should start soon. And I'll just do the org. So in the pixel crawler, I should add the not the heroes. Enemy or crew, rogue, idle into my file system. And maybe we can change this one to org idle. Right, just the same process. So in the org, I should change this one. And actually I can also just change the type to be animated sprite 2D. Right. Maybe you can change the name if you want. Animated sprite 2D, right? And then add the sprite frames and use the sprite sheet. Right. So the frames. Okay. So now the orc is not animated yet because we haven't selected the autoplay on load. Right, so now the orcs are animated as well. Okay, that's all for the hands-on. Right, everyone can finish this, right? Okay.
Doors and bounds.
You mean the jump? They don't move, is it? They are not animated, is it? Ah. Okay, anyways, we need to move on. And if you've got any issue, can debug after the session. Okay. Okay, so that one is animation of the player sprite, right? So another type of animation we can do is to animate the property of a node, right? To do that, we have a node called animation player, right? So let's add an animation player, right? So maybe we want to create an animation that the player is hurt, right? When the player takes damage, we can make the player sprite to turn red for a short while, right? So we'll try to add that one. For that, we go to the player, and then inside the player, we can add a child node, which is animation player, right? This one, animation player. Okay. So now we can go to the animation tab underneath here, right? And can create a new animation. Maybe you can call it take damage. It's a player scene, and you add a child called animation player, and you can go to the animation tab, right? And create a new animation. Okay. So what we have here, this one is the animation, and an animation can have different tracks, right? We need to add a track, maybe the property track, right? So we add a property track of the sprite. We press OK, and these are the properties of the sprite that we can animate. Yes. So the one we are looking for is modulate. This one will apply a color modulation or color filter on the sprite. So we choose the modulate property, and then we see this new track, which is the modulate property track of your sprite, right? So if we look at this one is the duration of the animation, right? Maybe we should see the length of invincibility we set for the player some time ago, right? To make sure they match with the animation. Sorry? The damage interval, right? Yes, this one. 2 seconds, right? So we should set the animation to be 2 seconds as well. You should see this one being expanded to 2 seconds, right? And the way we create an animation is to insert a key in your timeline. Insert keys in your timeline, right? Right. You can right click on the line and then insert key. It's here. It's here. Just change to 2. Yeah. Okay, so the keys basically they are just the time that your property changes. You can set the property at this key to be some value. So let's say the player should turn red and then back, right? So we should set the middle key's value to be a red value, right? And then Godot will handle the animation for us. So we can click on the middle key and go to the value, right? The hex value for red is RGB is FF0000. So we just key in FF0000. It should be a red value. You can see from this track that it turns from white to red and then back to white. So the smooth animation is already calculated for you. And please make sure that the time value is 2 seconds. If it falls outside this range, then it wouldn't be played. So make sure it's 0, 1, and 2. The time here. Okay, and there's also another like different properties you can use to configure the animation, right? So maybe you can set if the change is continuous or discrete, right? You can also change the function that it changes, the value changes. Maybe you want to be linear change or some other functions, like you can configure those. Right. And now we have the animation track, right? And then we need to play the animation when the player actually takes damage. So we go to player.gd, and inside the take damage function, we should make the animation play. So use the usual process, we can define a variable animation player, right? This is to access this child node animation player. So we inside player.gd, we have a new variable, and then set the variable at when the node is ready. Right, so the variable should be the animation player. And then after that, we can use the animation player to play the animation, which is this one. Right. So inside take damage, we should, when the player is actually taking damage, meaning inside this if block, right? We can use the animation player variable dot play, right? Dot play. Then the argument you supply to play is just the name of the animation, which is the string take damage. Then this will play all the tracks under the take damage animation.
I don't know why you need the keys to move, right?
Yeah. Are you sure you have binded the keys? In the project settings.
Oh.
Yeah, check that. Okay. So now we have the logic to play the animation when the player takes damage. Right. Should check this one. When the player collides with the enemy and takes damage, it should turn red and then back. Okay, there that is. Okay. Okay. Right, that's all about the animations. Right. And the next one I want to talk about is the UI. Right. So UI is basically the user interface that the user provides their control, right? That's why the UI nodes are called control nodes. They fall under the control class, right? And some common UI components we use in our game is text labels, right? And this is one component called texture rect, right? It's basically a rectangle with texture, right? So, okay, so it's very similar to sprite. It specifies the appearance in your UI, right? The only difference is this is a control node. This is a node 2D. Okay. Just use a texture rect when you want to have an image in your UI, right? And then the progress bar is basically a bar with the values. And then when the value changes, the progress changes. And then of course the button. Okay, so let's create a label in our UI first. So remember that UI node is a control node, right? Which is different from anything we have here. For that purpose, let's create a new scene, which is the UI scene. And you can see here is there's a 2D scene, 3D scene, and UI, right? If we choose a UI, Then we have a control node here. And save it as a UI.pscn. Now this is our current UI in a new scene, UI scene. Okay. UI as well. Right. So let's add a child node here. Let's just use the label node. Just add a child node and then use the label node. Right. So this is a new node we have added to the UI. Right. You can see this is the position of the label. And here are maybe the text of the label. You can specify. Maybe we can okay, let's put in some random strings like this is a label. Right. And then this is the text will show in your label. Right. So this is text is just a property of this UI node, of this label node. And to specify the position of the UI, right, you can just drag the UI around. You can just treat it as a node2D, right? You can enlarge it. You can drag it around, right? Actually, for UI, there are two ways to configure the position, right? This one is if you go to the control properties and under layout, there's a layout mode. So it's either position or anchors, right? So our current default way is just the position, just to specify the position of the node, just like a node2D. But there's also an anchor node, which I will not talk about, but this anchor is a bit complicated. So it's like, if you see this green thing here, this is the anchor, right? So basically what anchor does is you get the position from your parent node, right? And then you anchor your current node with respect to your parent node, right? This the default one is anchor in Godot 3, but Godot 4, they provided the position, which is more intuitive. So yeah, just use position. Yeah. Anyways, maybe we want to, the first label we want to add to our game is the health bar, right? So the text is just HP, right? And then we can go to our game and add the UI node into our game. So we can instantiate a child scene in our game, which is our UI scene just now. You see the HP label being displayed here. And when we play the game, it's here. Okay. And regarding UI assets, okay, the first kind of assets is the font for your label, right? So let's go to the links I sent. Just go to the font link and then download now. So this is the font. This is the font that we're gonna use for our game. It's a very classic 8-bit font, right? So just download the font. This is the page I was referring to. So can 0.00. Okay. Anyways, you can also click on this no thing, just take me to the downloads. Right, and then download the font. Right. When we have the font here, we just drag it to our file system like we have done previously. So now we have the font in our game, right? And in our label node, there is a way to specify the theme, including the font. If we go down to under the control properties, there is a theme, right? We can create a new theme here and then click on the new theme. Now you can see there's a default font and the default font size, right? So we can drag our font into the default font. I mean, it's just in the inspector. You can find there's this control, and then there's a theme. Okay, yeah, create a new theme and then click on the new theme and to configure it. You click on the arrow and then new theme. No, and then click on the theme. It's in the inspector like this. Make sure you have chosen the label node.
But how do you make that? I think we can use that option 31. How do you make that inline thing if you're on normal? Right now I'm really in normal. Can you do the size?
Oh, you can do the size later. Yeah, that one I'll cover later. Have you created like
Oh wait.
oh yeah, that's at the top. It's control is just a generic, just like your game scene, your game node, which is a node 2D. You have to add new stuff under it, right? So now we have the theme, we have the font, right? Then we can change the default font size. Okay, for this particular font, the author says that use font size 16, 32, 48, etc. Right? So multiples of 16. Maybe we want to make it larger, maybe like 64. So if it's not a multiple of 60, if it's not a multiple of 16, it will be a bit blurry. If you go to like 60, it's okay, it's a bit blurry. Make sure it's a multiple of 16, right? And then adjust the size and the position as you want. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then I click the left and right, you want to you can see that. In the next set index, the on the that's because your current change is but that's our change to this. How do you want that so you start the font size?
Label and then inspector. In the inspector, that's a theme, right? Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or you need to go to the best language. Then you have to put a logic that it's sandwich. Get this node, right? Get this numbers, right? It's not about today. For the mark. The logic of the dynamic. So that's one way we see it. Then you need to have a logic. You will play the animation here, and animation. Interesting into the game. Yeah, you have to add a UI scene to the game, right? So yeah, that's other task. It's fun, but essentially, then the low plots.
Okay, now we have the HP label, right? So next thing I want to do is to add the health bar for the player, right? Okay, so for progress bar, if you want to add some assets to your progress bar, you can use a texture progress bar, right? So we can go to our UI and add a child node, which is a texture progress bar. So it's different from a normal progress bar that you can specify the textures. Okay, there are 3 textures: under, over, and progress. So this just means the texture that is underneath the progress, the texture that is over the progress, and the progress itself, right? Okay, regarding the assets, let's go to the links I sent. This UI assets. So let's download this UI assets, which contains our health bars. Right. So you can choose any of the progress bars you like. But I think the most intuitive one is a 6th one. It's the red progress bar. So add these 2 assets to your game. Right. Okay, let's give them new names. So this is the base, right? So this one should be the under, and this one is the actual progress. Let's rename them health bar under and health bar progress. So we can drag these 2 into our texture progress bar in the respective texture. Right. So for the progress, it should be the health bar progress. And for the under, should be the health bar under. Okay. Now this is the properties of the progress bar that controls the progress. Right. So the current value is 0, right? Let's try 50. So you can see there's a progress here, right? So it just calculates the fraction between minimum value and max value, and then change the progress accordingly. And if you see there's a slight mismatch between these 2, we can fix this with the progress offsets here. So we should apply a negative y, no, positive y, sorry. Going down is positive y. Let's try 2 pixels of y offset. Right, and then the x offset is maybe also 3 pixels. Right, around there. Okay, so set this to be 3 pixels of x offset and 2 pixels of y offset. Right, then these 2 should align. Okay. You can set the initial value to 100. Okay, so we want to connect the health bar with the actual health of our player, right? Let's move it a bit here beneath the HP label, right? And then how do we connect this value to the value of to the health of our player? We need to go to our player script, right? And then access the value property of our health bar. So how do we access the health bar from our player, right? We need to get their relative position in the tree. Remember that both of them are child of the game node, right? So in order to get the UI, you need to get parent and then get child UI. Right. So let's do it in the player.gd. Can define a new variable, health bar. Right. And when it's ready, we need to access the health bar node. Okay. You can also try to okay, if you go to the game and then make sure you choose the player.gd, and then this is the game scene. If you drag the UI here, you'll see something like this, right? this is how you access your file system actually, which is the same syntax when you want to traverse the game tree, right? So you can also // means you go up one level to the game, and then you get the UI, and then you slash again to get the textual progress bar of the UI. Or you can rename it to health bar. Textual progress bar, this one. Yeah, I just okay. Yeah, make sure the under is the under one and the progress is the actual red bar. Right, and then these offsets. Because you don't have the value yet, change the value to 100. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So now we can change the name to health bar, and then we can access this health bar from our script. This room is annoying. Okay, so just a /UI/health bar. Right now, this is a health bar node that we have accessed from our UI, from our player. Right. Then the only thing we need to do is to set the value property of the health bar when the player's health changes. Right. Currently, it's only under take damage. So let's apply the change when the player takes damage. Right. So this, after the line health minus equals damage, we can just set the value property of the health bar to be the current health, which is health bar dot value equals health. Okay, let me repeat. This health bar is the health bar node in your UI, right? You are setting its value property to be the current health of the player after the player takes the damage. Right. Let's replay the node again. Right. So now the health bar changes after the player takes damage. Okay. Okay.
How do you see arrows? You click.
Okay, so actually I have a hands-on here, but I don't think we have time today. So yeah, maybe you can do this at home. So just add a label for the number of remaining arrows you have, right? So as I mentioned, for this arrow picture, right, we should use a texture rect under our UI. Maybe I'll demonstrate that first. So under UI, you can add a texture rect, which is very similar to a sprite. Right? You can just drag your arrow.png into the texture of the texture rect, and then adjust the position of the arrow image. Why do you like that? Okay. Thanks. Okay. So now you have a picture in your UI. Yeah. Mm. Right. So the hands-on is about adding a label here and changing the text of the label based on the current arrow count. Yeah. So you can try to do this at home before our next workshop. And then there's a very genius challenge that I came up with, which connects with the previous topic of animation. So try to animate any health changes. Think about how do you animate the property of the health bar using the animation player that we discussed just now. So the effect will look like this. See the health bar. Okay. Okay. So yeah, these are for your practice at home. Okay. So let's move on to our last part, which is the audio. Right. Actually, I realized that we forgot to add the background to our game. Maybe let's do that first. So okay, in our game, let's add a sprite. Remember that UI is only for user control and for the user to view the current game status, right? So you shouldn't add the background as a UI element. Instead, you should add it in the game as a sprite 2D. And we should have the background in one of the assets. It should be in the tiles. And then the two background files we have, let's also drag them into our game. Right. So this one very simple. We just create two sprites and then drag them. Sprite 2D. Maybe this one can be the background, and this one can be the cloud. So one of the image is the cloud, the other one is the actual background. Right. Let's drag them into our game. Right. Okay. Notice how they are in front of all other elements. Right. So to change the relative ordering of the elements, just need to order them like this. Right. So the further down, the more front it is. So for the background, we should move it. We should move them to the top of the level, right? On the game. And this background is at the most back, and then the cloud is the second most back. Geez, the black is cloud showing. No, no. Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. So maybe we can transform the backgrounds to make sure that our game, it covers our game. It covers the viewport, right? You move these two nodes to the top of this level under game. Okay, it's in the tiles. It's in the tiles folder, right? The tiles folder, assets, and the two backgrounds. Yeah, so you just create two sprite 2Ds, move them to the top of the list under game. Make sure the cloud is in front of the background, right? And then you can change their positions. So, okay, let's move the background first. Maybe scale it a bit larger. Okay, and then make sure it covers the blue box, which is our viewport, right? And that's the background and that's a cloud. And then in order for them to align, right? Actually, you can just copy paste the transform values from here, which will be easier, right? So maybe you can copy the position value of your background that we have set just now. Go to your background cloud and then paste the value on the position, as well as the scales. Then they should align. Okay. Now our game has a beautiful background. Right. I will talk more about this background in the next session when we have a camera. Right, there's some more details with the background when you move the camera. Okay. All right, let's move on. We have 15 minutes left to cover audio, right? So for audio, the node you use is audio stream player and audio stream player 2D, right? Let's see them in our Godot. So first, let's try to add a BGM to our game. As from the in the game node, we can add a child node, which is a audio stream player. And you can see there's a player and player 2D, also player 3D, right? And what's the difference? So the difference is that this player, this audio stream player doesn't have a position, right? But this 2D has a position. So the closer you are to this audio stream player 2D, then the louder the volume is, right? So it is position dependent. But this one, the sound is not position dependent. So anywhere in the game, you have the same sound. And for the BGM, we should choose this one because we don't want it to change when the player moves. Right. We can create an audio stream player under the game node. Right. Maybe you can change it to BGM. Then it's the same process of finding assets and downloading the assets. So the second last link I sent is the BGM link. Right. You can download the BGM link. And then this one. And choose any of these BGMs in the list. Okay, let's just use the first one for convenience. Okay, so we can drag the first audio file into our file system. Right. Maybe can rename to BGM. Yeah, choose anyone you want. Yeah, can play with it. Okay, so an important thing to notice, okay, the looping feature of your music is decided when you import the file. So if you want something like BGM to loop, right, you need to tick this loop option and then re-import. Otherwise, it will stop once it finishes. Right, this is a import tab. So you click on the BGM and then import tab. Then you, make sure it loops. Oh, this is just a compiler bug. It's a bug with the Godot editor, but it actually. Okay, actually, maybe I need to delete this one first because I renamed. Okay. So can drag this inside first. Before we rename, we re-import with the loop, right? And then we can rename. Okay, thank you. Okay, then it's very simple. It's the normal procedure of adding your asset, which is dragging it into the string property here. Right. Then a bunch of properties like autoplay is it plays when the game starts, right? And then the playing is whether it is currently playing in your editor. This is for you to test. If this is on, it plays in your editor. That's it. Right.
Can't open it in the Mac. Mac.
You can't open in the Mac. This import, re-import.
Let's take the download. Oh, so I think it's wrong. Yeah, and then that is something.
Okay, so our game should have the BGM now. Okay. And now we want to add some sound effects into our game. So remember, recall that the audio stream player is not position dependent, but for the sound effects, maybe we want them to be position dependent, right? So we will use the audio stream player 2D for this purpose. Yeah, then the sound effects is a link here, and download the impact sounds. Right? Impact sound. This one, any impact sounds. So we have so many to choose from. Let's see. Okay, so maybe the first thing we want to create is a player getting damaged, a player getting hurt, right? I think the one I found is a impact punch. Okay, maybe we can just use this one, impact punch, either one, impact punch heavy 0, 0, right? So we can, yeah, add this to our game. And this time, it shouldn't loop, right? It's only one time. Otherwise, the player is a bit, right? So yeah, we just leave it as it is, and then can rename to player hurt. Okay. Now we need to add this as a audio stream player 2D to our game. Okay. So some of you may think we can add it on the player, right? But I will add it on the game first, and I'll tell you why later. So add it under the game node, at the child node. It should be a impact punch heavy. Yeah.
So what's the BGM again? I missed that.
The BGM is just the first one. I use the first one. You can use anyone actually. Okay, so under the game, we add an audio stream player 2D. And we rename it to player hut. Right? And similarly we drag the player hut audio to this string. Right? So this one is not autoplay on default because it's only triggered when the player gets hurt. And we need to configure that in our player script, right? So in the player script, similarly, we have to the 2D one, audio stream player 2D. Yeah. Okay, so we need to create a variable called player hurt sound, right? And similarly access the variable when it's ready. Okay, we should go up one level to the game and then get the player hurt. I should follow the naming convention. So we name to player hurt. Use to player hurt. Okay, so now we have access to this node, right? Player hurt node. And then we should play it when the player takes damage. Right? So under the take damage, when the player actually takes damage, we can player hut dot play. Player hut sound, I think. Right. So this will be played when it's very soft, right? It's very soft. So maybe we need to adjust the volume a bit. So in the volume dB, right? We can maybe increase this by 20 dB, and then it's a bit louder, right? And maybe 10. We must make sure that you are choosing the correct node, and then in the inspector you can see the properties. Okay, right.
I don't want sound how to make the sound big, but it's not very new.
Okay, very good BGM visuals. Okay, now I'll explain why we should instantiate the sound in the game instead of the player, right? So let's do an experiment. Okay, so we also want a hit sound when the arrow hits an enemy. So we just use, I think the one is impact plate. Let's try impact plate. Okay, this is a good sound. So let's use this impact plate medium, right, as the sound when we damage an enemy. Impact plate medium 001. Okay, let's rename to enemy hut. Okay. So because the logic of killing an enemy is inside the arrow, it's intuitive to think that we should play the audio in the arrow, right? And then if you create the audio stream 2D in the arrow, let's say it's enemy hut, and you drag it to the stream, and we can do the same var enemy hut sound, and then equals the enemy hut. Okay, remember this is the wrong approach. I'm just demoing the wrong approach. And then when the arrow hits an enemy, we should play this sound, right? Dot play. Right. And if we try that, you can't really hear the sound. Right. Okay, even if we increase the volume, it shouldn't be played. Okay, maybe can someone tell me why? Remember that we are creating the sound under arrow, right? Not in the game.
Is that the arrow is deleted at the same
Right.
time as the import had played?
Right.
So it just fails to play because there is no arrow instance where it can play.
Correct.
The arrow instance was deleted.
Yeah, very good. So, right. So, okay. So when we play the sound, and then right after that, we queue free the arrow itself, right? So when we queue free a node, the actual process is we queue free all the child. We recursively queue free all the child first before we delete this node, right? So this node will be deleted when it's being played, and then you will never hear the sound, right? That's why we should instantiate this node in our game instead of the arrow, right? So, okay, now if you have this already, you can copy the node, and then in the game you just add it. Okay, it's originally in the just now I created in the arrow, right? If you have it already, you can right click copy and then go to the game and paste. If not, you can just go to the game and right click and add a child node, which is audio stream player 2D, and then follow the same process of adding the sound.
The arrow.
Arrow. Okay. Now we shouldn't have this sound in our arrow, right? Just remove the node. And then this enemy hurt sound, we should retrieve it from the parent. Just add // So $sign followed by the string // enemy hurt, which will access the game first and then get the enemy hurt sound. Right. So now when you hit an enemy, it will play the sound in the game node instead of under the arrow. Then even if the arrow is being deleted, it's not going to affect the sound. Let's experiment. And hear the slide sound, right? Okay. It's I changed this line so that the hurt sound is referring to the enemy hurt sound, enemy hurt node in the game. In the game, yeah.
I can now keep calling that node because the node after that's completed.
Yeah, that's true.
That makes sense. Okay, so when only two arrows for one
That's because we added the timer, right? We can now only shoot arrow once per 2 seconds. Yeah. Okay, it's 9:33 now. Let's wrap up today's content. Oh, and there's a challenge for you as well. So try to play the footstep sound when the character is running on the ground. Okay, the footstep sound is somewhere here, right? Choose anything you want, and then play it only if and only if the character is running. Okay. Okay, so with that, that's the end of today's workshop. We have covered different ways to add new experiences to your game. And next week, we will cover the techniques for you to make a bigger game as a group, so that you can prepare for the game jams and the future game projects, right? To collaborate and make a game together without much conflicts. Uh-huh.
Okay, so what's the timer for the arrow?
Okay, maybe we can solve that after the workshop, right? So yeah, so that's the end of today's workshop. Yeah, okay, I will stay here if you have any more questions. Yeah. Okay, let's end the meeting first.